This week on Ted Lasso. I just really like this scene because, I don't know if you know, but the two of them are husband and wife in real life, and I really like seeing kind people just being happy and in love. And all this and more, all on today's.
Yeah, we're watching season 2. Yeah.
Thank you so very much, Matthew Winkler, for that lovely theme. And also, thank you very much, Brendan Hunt, aka Coach Beard, for your approval on my shirt. Welcome to Talkin' Ted. This is a Ted Lasso recap show. I am Mike. I am your host. My special guest this episode is an accomplished writer as well as an old friend of mine. And we have a great and engaging chat about writers and audiences. In fact, the chat was so engaging that we didn't really get around to talking about the most recent Ted Lasso episode. Don't you fret, because here's a rundown of all my predictions based on Ted Lasso episode 5, Rainbow.
Let's start the clock.
The last two episodes were the Christmas episode and the romantic comedy homage. I think this is a strategic front-loading of joy to set us up for some real heavy emotional stuff down the line. The show's editing is linking Ted and Rebecca. This is a misdirect. Note how long Jamie was in the background while Rebecca and Keely are talking about the mystery man. This is visual foreshadowing. Oh, this doesn't seem in line with Jamie's character? That's because his father figure Ted is being a Cyrano de Bergerac-esque helper. Also, I still think Ted is gonna banter match with Dr. Sharon Fieldstone. Speaking of Dr. Sharon Fieldstone, Nate is going to have a heavy therapy session with her soon. His confidence just crumbled after Roy came in at the very end, which was a devastating fall given the strides he made in the episode. Also, Dubai Air is going to break all ties with the team, Rupert is going to swoop in and cause chaos, and those Nespresso coffee maker machines, they're going to explode once you plug them in, injuring half the team.
Let's meet our special guest.
Please give a warm welcome to my special guest, JP Larocque. JP, how you doing today?
Doing great. Thank you for having me on the show. I'm very excited to chat about all things Ted Lasso related, and also just to catch up because it's been a while since we last connected. I've known you for a very, very long time.
Tell the people of the internet a bit about you.
I am a TV writer and journalist. I've written for Slasher. The newest season is on Shudder. I am currently writing for the television show Coroner, which is a CBC procedural. But I've also written for Jan, which is a sitcom on CTV.
The world is getting to know the genius of JP Larocque, but joke's on all of you because I knew about JP's genius back when I was in grade 10.
High school. I remember all of it. I remember drama club. If you were artsy and you had like a compulsion to act, write, direct, do it, you found like-minded people. And I know that we definitely found each other during that time. So, and I'm trying to be very vague enough that no one can ever like determine exactly how old either of us are. It was a little while ago, so.
First concert, best concert.
My first concert was when I was 14 years old, and I went with a cousin to see Peter, Paul, and Mary perform.
Wow.
In terms of best concert, my partner took me to see Fleetwood Mac. So I got to see Stevie Nicks like doing her whole like shawls witchy thing. It was me and just a lot of baby boomers, like just a sea of baby boomers and me.
Let's talk some TV.
Was there a particular show in your formative years that just changed your TV viewing life and styles for you?
I would say the one that really kind of blew things open for me in terms of like what television could be was definitely Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Heartfelt, had stakes, and had really strong female characters and was really interesting. It inspired me. Like, I feel like that was the first show that I watched where I was like, oh, wow, like I the power of this medium, I see its potential and I kind of want to engage in that.
Did that also start making you a more scrutinous TV viewer of saying like, okay, now I have these standards?
Internet was obviously just becoming kind of a thing. This website had message boards where people would talk about individual episodes as they aired. I loved it because to me, it did give me this opportunity to engage with story and to analyze and look closely at things. And sometimes writers would come on and interact with the fans in these forums. I do think it prepared me for what culture looks like now, which is that it is this situation where it's impossible to create anything for kind of like mass market media without preparing yourself for getting feedback, very direct feedback from the people who are consuming it.
Being in the Ted Lasso writing room, I have to imagine that they're like writing the episode and then they're also thinking to themselves, okay, how is this episode going to be received? And how can we play off the reactions that we're anticipating? Maybe I'm thinking too hard about it, but I wouldn't be surprised given just how savvy people are and just how ubiquitous the discourse is.
Now, I'm not quite familiar with exactly when the second season was written, but I have to imagine that it was conceived of at least with a certain sense of what the first season's reception had been. And different shows have different processes, right? And who knows if, like, let's say Bill Lawrence, maybe his approach was, maybe when he pitched Ted Lasso, he had his first season, his second season, and his third season conceptualized in broad strokes. And so really all it came down to was figuring out exactly what kind of the meat of each individual episode would look like. All of that being said, I think it's a combo. Like, I think that there's an element of like where you individually see the character and like the character and engage with the character, you come up with stories and ideas that will build off of that and challenge that and push that character in interesting directions. And I think that like that's the way in. But I think that if you have a fan base, if you have a fervent fan base, if you have people who like really love the show and are very responsive, like with Ted Lasso, you probably are keeping a bit of attention or paying attention to kind of what they're saying and what they like, and then giving them what they want.
Speaking of fervent fan base participants and members, I feel like I am too passionate about my expectations. And I wonder, as a TV writer, how you feel about my kind of people.
Well, I feel like the vast majority of television writers are those kinds of people. So, I mean, I think having a passionate response and shows like a close attention to detail. It shows like, again, the fact that you are invested in these characters, that you're invested in their journey, and you're invested in like what the show is doing and the things that you really loved about the first season, right? The first season did such an exceptional job of like setting up all of these stories and setting up all of these characters and executing all of these really lovely surprises and reversals, and all of these characters who kind of matured and turned in really interesting ways that you kind of like didn't expect. And it was also hitting you at a time when, you know, a lot of people were looking for a media that reflected a value system that was about finding the best in people and like building bridges between people who had just like different points of view, right?
Not to put you on the spot, but after watching season 1 of Ted Lasso, what do you hope will happen in the future?
So for me, like as a long game person, and I think in general, this is like where my writing always comes from anyway, is always a very character focused place. So for me, I was always kind of like, well, I want to see more of Ted's emotional world. I want to see more of Ted be challenged. I want to see Ted, you know, for somebody who is so charming and who does kind of bring people over to his side in every way, you know, I want to continue to see that get more and more difficult, because I do think that that is, first of all, really interesting dramatically. It gives you the potential for more humor, because I feel like the collision between different types of personalities is always where you find lots of humor. And I think it also gives the show that charge that I think you talk about, where it's like the lack of predictability, the sense that, you know, Ted could go on a journey that we wouldn't necessarily conceive of.
One thing that I didn't know until a few weeks ago was that this is a show that's only going to be 3 seasons. The classic 3 act story. Or, you know, even just going to Star Wars. The second part is the bummer part.
Yeah.
They're stacking all of these like heavy positive moments in like before the first half. So
you're getting ready for something negative, basically.
Well, I mean, I think there are enough clues that have happened in the first episodes, and not to mention that the most important new addition to the cast is a therapist.
I had no idea about this 3-season plan, though, which is really interesting, because that would mean wherever we leave Ted at the end of this season, it's going to be setting up an end game, right? So curious to see what that looks like.
All right, JP, we've been talking Ted, we've been talking TV,
But now we're gonna talk wordplay. This is Wordplay, Swordplay. Wordplay, Swordplay.
this is a riddle that has been provided to us by last week's guest. Are you ready?
I am ready.
A jovial holiday figurehead singing a designer hip-hop track while spreading misleading political discourse in a landlocked East African country bordering Kenya.
So we got Santa, Panda,
Yeah.
propaganda, and Uganda. Okay, and the answer is Santa singing Panda while spreading propaganda in Uganda.
You did it. Honestly.
We did it.
I mean, I appreciate you including me in that process, but I'm really just here to celebrate what you did, because that was incredible.
Well, that just means you're the Ted Lasso of this riddle solving situation. Okay, JP, the final question I ask all guests on Talkin' Ted.
What are you grateful for?
Oh, wow. I'm grateful for so much, I think. For health, for sure. You know, I'm grateful for family and for friends. I'm grateful for work. Yeah, I mean, I am grateful, period. I think, you know, I feel like we live in a world where it's very easy to look at the things we don't have, but I feel grateful because I feel like I do have a lot of really wonderful things, people and things in my life. So I'm grateful for all of it. I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for you to ask me to be on your show. That's incredibly lovely. So thank you for that.
Well, I appreciate that, JP. One thing I am grateful for is to go back to our old high school days, finding the people that you connect with. And honestly, I'm just, not that it's a contest, you were the most creative person I met throughout all of high school.
Oh, thank you, Mike.
And not only that, here's the best compliment I'm gonna give you. The yearbook that you edited is the best yearbook that I have ever read.
Yay! I mean, whenever I brag about high school, people are always like, oh, you know, like people are like, oh, I was popular in high school. And I was like, I was not popular in high school, but yearbook, newspaper, drama club, and all of those were amazing. So, and that was all I needed, right? So yeah, no, thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Talking Ted. If you have any ideas for future episodes, sound off in the comments. Or, if you know me personally, text me your ideas. I appreciate you.